This is Andrew Stanton. He wrote acclaimed animated movies like WALL-E, Finding Nemo, and Toy Story. In 2012, he gave a TED Talk on the art of storytelling, and without knowing it, he gave away the most important secret to great game making. The one that explains why Dark Souls didn't ruin every other game for me, even though the thrill of its gameplay is absolutely unmatched. We will come back to this. This is Final Fantasy X, the first game that made me realize that games could be art. In a sense, the first glimpse of this channel was born when I cried during FF10's ending as a 15-year-old who feared to express his emotions. I love this game very much. I replay it every couple of years, and even after all this time, I fall in love with it all over again. And most of this game is filled with absolutely abhorrent gameplay. About 90% of the actions that you will take in this wonderful and emotional journey around Spyro can be summed up by this. So, how can we reconcile these notions that on one side games are meant to be played, and therefore they are composed of rules and objectives so that the player can feel something by confronting the challenge that is presented to them? And on the other side, I'm saying that it doesn't matter as much as we'd like to think. How can I celebrate the importance of interactivity and gameplay as a valid art form, and then love a game that could be played by a very developed toddler, or even maybe by an important congressman? The answer lies with Andrew Stanton and his one rule of storytelling.
Make me care. Please, emotionally, intellectually, aesthetically, just make me care.
A simple idea that will help explain why Final Fantasy X is a great game despite its passable gameplay, but also a simple idea that explains why so many titles end up missing the mark. In this video, I'll try to define and explore how games make us care, and what is at the source of such an accomplishment. Or maybe this is just a lot of effort to justify my love of a 22-year-old game. Who knows? Who knows? I do. Like about half the people making videos on this platform, I'm an avid fan of the Souls and Souls-adjacent games made by From Software. Nothing compares to them in terms of feeling engaged by the moment-to-moment gameplay. The RPG action-adventure subcategory that is the Souls-like kind of blew away any other type of games when it came to gameplay. Dark Souls was so good, other games felt tasteless. Well, not exactly. Most games did. Dark Souls didn't ruin every other game for me, it ruined okay games. Games that were mostly products. Games that I used to enjoy as a teenager because I enjoyed gaming. Almost anything that found its way in the disc tray of my PlayStation would earn my time and attention. And when I played my first Souls-like, that changed. I now needed more. I couldn't play the likes of Kingdom of Amalur or the Call of Duty campaigns because the gameplay felt too generic and the story too serviceable. I just couldn't care. Nothing was as good as the exploration and the combat of the Souls games. It's just the best gameplay experience around. And yet, I couldn't say it is my favorite game, at least not with the utmost confidence. It's in the pantheon, don't get me wrong, but why is it that Final Fantasy X or The Witcher 3 or many other games that have way worse gameplay still feel like masterpieces to me? Sometimes even more so than From Software's catalog. I think it's because gameplay is a tool that serves something bigger. Games are first and foremost experiences, and gameplay is one of the many ways games make you feel something. But it is far from the only one. It's part of a larger vision. The vision of a game is exactly what Andrew Stanton referred to when he said, "Make me care emotionally, intellectually, aesthetically." It's what holds things like gameplay, art style, and story together. It is a common direction to all the elements of the game. For Dark Souls, it's all about confronting impossible odds and experiencing growth as you go from challenge to challenge. And what's amazing about it is that it does so not only for the character that you play, but for you, the player. You grow, you get better, you learn, you change. That's the core of the game, it's vision. Gameplay is tuned to give you the space to experience mastery and reward your perseverance. Aesthetically, FromSoft created desolate and oppressive worlds, Every new location breeds despair and melancholy, and that serves the bigger purpose. It makes you feel even more the weight of your accomplishments. You didn't just kill a boss, you did it in the context of a world that has tamed everyone else but you. For Dark Souls, gameplay, atmosphere, and lore work hand in hand in a collective effort to make you feel something. Tight and challenging gameplay is necessary to support the text of the game, the vision. But for other games, that goal can be different. If we go back to Final Fantasy X, the story is all about the different responses we have in front of desperate situations. Each character presents itself with its unique take on the matter, and the journey will be about the way they grow together to face hopelessness. It's a very story-driven game. There's a lot of cinematics and dialogue. It's a story of progression, of a new generation owning their place in the world. And therefore, the turn-based combat with very specific roles attributed to each character is, thematically, very appropriate. It brings out the character's uniqueness by having them be useful against certain types of enemies. It says very concretely the progression where those lost teenagers genuinely grow into the world's saviors, and it lets any player go through the story without the need to have good reflexes. I'm not saying it was the best choice or that if they ever were to remake it, they should keep it, but I'm saying it makes sense. It serves the vision of the game, and it's why I still love it this much years later. That and the fact that in the remaster you can play at 8x speed to not die of boredom during the random encounters, I'll give you that. The gameplay is unengaging, but the experience as a whole is cohesive, profound, and unique. It's why I still cry during its ending. At the end of the day, both Dark Souls and Final Fantasy understand that gameplay is important, sure, but the context of that gameplay is what really matters. It is the key to making us care. Skyrim is a very repetitive game. Most of your time is going to be spent clearing caves of enemies, sometimes clearing ruins of enemies. It can even be mountaintops or temples. You go places, you kill things, you loot stuff. You usually don't think about it too much. Then there's this guy. He's just some random dude in Wildland that asks you to clear a bandit group that lives in a cave. But I was actually engaged by it because he tells you that these bandits target the Dark Elves and there's a rampant problem of racism in Willem, and they are treated like second-class citizens. He tells you that this isn't his vision of Skyrim. He wants you to right a wrong because the power in place won't. And so I did, and I cared. Because even though I was doing the exact same thing as I did for the past 30 hours, now I had a good reason to do so. The one rule to make you care is to find a compelling answer to the question, why? Why should I do what I'm supposed to do? Lackluster games will give you XP and loot and all the other usual rewards and will be happy about it. Great games understand that these are important, don't get me wrong, but it's not what will make you care. It's the difference between farming your daily objectives in an MMO and completing a side quest in The Witcher 3. The Witcher will always imbue meaning through narratives and atmosphere. Most of the content tells a story, speaks of the world and the reality in which its inhabitants live. It makes you feel the toll of war, the tragedy of loss, the burden of power. The game has a very average combat system, nothing to brag about, but certainly not bad. But it doesn't matter that much because it's the best at telling you why you are drawing your sword. You do it for love, justice, revenge, ego, etc. The context of the gameplay is vivid, it has an emotional resonance. And it's why these games, the likes of The Witcher, Spider-Man, Final Fantasy X, Nier Automata, The Last of Us, can hold their own in the face of the best game ever made. It's because even though the challenge isn't as engaging in its mechanics, probably to be sure that it doesn't hinder the experience of most players, they're always trying to make you care about what you do. But to get to the point where the context of the gameplay, the why of your action is so good that it matters more than perfect gameplay, you have to define your vision clearly. You have to know what's the core of your game. For that, we have a very good example to analyze. God of War is kind of the perfect way to treat this subject because the franchise has two very successful iterations on the same character. The gameplay and storytelling changed drastically from the first trilogy to its revival in 2018. Both propositions were amazing in their own rights, but they were in no way trying to convey the same emotions. They were not about the same thing. The first trilogy was speaking of rage as an answer to sorrow. It was first and foremost violent. Every animation showed us that Kratos was not only there to win the fight, but to destroy everything that was in his way. The beat-them-all genre was perfect for this. Every stage was an opportunity for carnage, the animations were brutal and cruel. The camera was positioned so that you could see as many enemies as possible. Everything was dedicated to make you feel powerful, to express rage to a point of no return. It was a simple theme, but everything pointed towards it. The 2018 Kratos is not driven by rage anymore. He's now driven by fear. Fear of losing his kid, maybe at the hands of this new pantheon, or because Atreus might find out who he really is and not love him anymore. And they could never express that theme through a big beat-them-all, so they brought the camera closer. The combat is intimate and challenging in a different way. It lost its juvenile power fantasy. Now even the simplest enemy could take down the God of War. Because it's not about being a god anymore. It's just about being a dad. Violence is now a tool for protection, not an exuberant expression of rage. In 2005, they made us care through spectacle, and in 2018, through intimacy. The animations, the cinematography, the story, and the acting were all rewired to fit that new purpose, that new direction. Both games knew what they were about, and every member of the team shared that vision. It is the sign of a great director. And so, even if God of War had a less engaging fighting system and exploration than Dark Souls, it could still rival it when the time came to make you feel something. Because they both were entirely dedicated to their vision.
A strong theme is always running through a well-told story.
So, gameplay does matter, of course. The games that I have listed still have good gameplay, but their first goal is to convey a vision, to speak of something that would make us care. And even games defined by their gameplay like Dark Souls, Celeste, Hollow Knight, or Blasphemous wouldn't be what they are without the attention to detail that goes into their world building and stories, or absence of one. Sometimes a real narrative would just get in the way of the experience, and therefore it's better for the game to just let you go through it without ever stopping you in your tracks. Because in those cases, a narrative wasn't the way to make you care. We care because the worlds presented to us are filled with passion and evocative details. We care because these stories ask big questions and teach us about what it means to be human. We care because we actually get attached to the characters that we embody. We feel responsible for the outcome of their tale. Dark Souls didn't ruin every other game for me because games are more than just a set of rules and objectives. They are experiences that draw from a whole spectrum of languages. And when they manage to make you care, nothing compares. I'm pretty sure that's what Wally would say, if he could speak.